Shabbat, December 27th. The fall of man, Genesis chapter 3. This is probably one of the most important chapters in the Bible. So many things depend on properly interpreting this passage. Are you guys ready? Now, the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field, which Yahweh Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, indeed, has Elohim said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden? The woman said to the serpent, from the fruit of the tree of the garden, trees of the garden we may eat. But from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat from it or touch it, or you will die. The serpent said to the woman, you surely will not die. For Elohim knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. All right, so what do we hear so far here in this passage? What's unusual in this? What do we see important? Go ahead, Dane.
Not to eat from the tree of knowledge.
There was one commandment, right? One commandment. Well, not really, but one do not, right? Don't eat from the tree, right? What else? That's it? What else is unusual here? What else do you notice? Is it normal for serpents to talk to people? A serpent is talking to a woman, and she doesn't think it's unusual. And we know from Revelation, this is this Satan, because it says in Revelation 12:9, the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. So John the Revelator tells us that the serpent was Satan. What does he first introduce here? Did he make a comment or a question first?
Comment.
Yes. What was the question? Elohim said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden. Has Elohim said that? Did he or didn't he?
He did.
Don't eat from any tree of the garden? Is that what Elohim said? No, but he wanted to get her thinking. So he opens up with a question. She says, from the tree of the garden we may eat, but from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat from it or touch it, or you will die. Then the serpent said what?
Die.
Exactly, you won't die. Is that true?
No.
I heard that this is translated, dying you will die. Death began the moment they ate the fruit. Yeah, and my interpretation of that is man before this did not have blood, was not life-driven by blood. He was sustained by spirit. Because two things show us something changed at the fall, but we'll get to that. But this is one of them. That mortality began, and that has to do with blood, because Hebrews says flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohim. You won't surely die, for Elohim knows in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. Is that true? Well, when you choose to decide against what Yahweh commands, what do you become? How will you be like Elohim when you disobey Elohim?
How will you be Elohim if you disobey Elohim?
Yeah, how will you be like him? Yeah, well, you're making a choice on your own without Elohim. So who are you becoming? You're becoming your own Elohim. You're dictating your own path. You're not letting Elohim dictate your path. How many Elohim are there?
One.
There's only one almighty Elohim, right? Is it you? Is it me? No, it's Yahweh. And when you decide against what he tells you to do, he's no longer your Elohim. You're choosing to be your own Elohim. And in that, you will die. You will die if you follow yourself. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
People want to do what they want to do, and they don't want to pay the price for it. Well, too bad. You can't do that. You have it one way or the other. You're responsible for your actions. You understand? So their eyes were open because in one sense they could do what they want and they were without Elohim. So now they're going to know good and they're going to know devastation. Good and evil. Evil meaning destruction, death, and devastation. Misery, injury, calamity. You understand? They're going to know trouble and goodness, not just goodness. She thought she was going to get something, be like Elohim. She wanted to be in the position of Elohim. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
She wanted to
Yeah, she wanted to control everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she coveted somehow the position of Elohim. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, was it good for food? Creedy says no. How about you, Bane? Was the tree good for food? No. The tree was bad for food. Yahweh said don't eat it. So how could she look at the tree and say it's good for food? Yahweh told you don't eat from it. Is it good? In other words, what she's saying is Yahweh was keeping something good from me. She believed what? Satan's lies. That Yahweh isn't good. Because when he said to her, you'll be like Elohim, the reason he told you not to eat from the tree is because he knows in the day you eat from it, you'll be like him. He's saying to her, Yahweh is not good and he doesn't want you to be like Elohim. He's keeping something from you. You understand? He's holding you back. Elohim is keeping me from fun. The tree was good. She saw the tree was good for food and that it was a delight to the eyes. So it was beautiful. And the tree was desirable. She was desiring it to make her wise. She took from its fruit and gave also to her husband, who followed his woman right into the pit of hell. Listen, the man is the head of the household. Yahweh says the man is the head of the house. If by some chance your wife has a lapse in judgment and she wants you to do something that Yahweh doesn't want you to do, what do? You do what Yahweh wants, not what your wife wants. And the same holds true with your husband, sis. You're young, but if your husband wants you to do something that Yahweh doesn't want you to do, in that place, you say, no, I'm not going to disobey Yahweh. We must follow Yahweh, not any person above Yahweh. A man is to help his woman follow Yahweh. A woman is to help her man follow Yahweh. As soon as you become a stumbling stone for your man or for your woman, you are a tool in the hands of Satan. That is bad. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. So he eats also. Then, and they give no reason why he eats. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. All right, so something was hidden from their eyes before they sinned. What do you think that was?
That they were naked.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I want you to help me understand this. There was a law given in the garden. What was it?
Not to eat the bad fruit.
And there was a penalty if you break the law. What was it?
If you eat the bad fruit,
Yes.
you will die.
You will die. Now they ate the fruit. Now what are they now that they weren't before? Before they ate the fruit, were they innocent or were they guilty? Before they ate the fruit,
No, innocent.
they were innocent. So there was no penalty. But after they ate the fruit, what were they? They were guilty, and there was a penalty, right? And so their eyes were open to know what? That they were guilty. And what do you do when you're guilty and you don't want to be caught? What do?
You lie.
You lie. Very good. Very good, Creedy. You lie. What else do? You hide. You lie and you hide, right? And one more thing. You blame somebody else. I didn't want to do it, but Bane said, come on, and I just followed him. You put the blame on somebody else, right? So they were guilty, and they knew they were guilty. Their eyes were open, and they were ashamed of it. And they went and they hid, right? So let's look what it says. The eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loin coverings, so they wouldn't be seen, right, by each other. In other words, Eve saw that Adam was guilty, and Adam saw that Eve was guilty. And neither of them liked it. And so they tried to hide their guilt from one another. This is something you guys got to remember. When you have it good and it's easy, and you're so ignorant that your innocence is like blindness. All right, so now, but what's sad is they hid themselves from one another. So let's talk about marriage real fast, right? So when you're married, what's important according to this passage for a husband and wife? Really, in any relationship, but especially a marriage, because a marriage is the most intimate of relationships. First of all, you're not guilty of anything bad. Don't be guilty. Because if you're guilty, what are you going to do? Lie, hide, and turn the tide on your wife or husband. But if you're pure-hearted and you're seeking Yahweh and you're doing what's right according to Yahweh, you can hold your head high and be a man and be strong and be vulnerable with your woman. And your woman can be vulnerable with you. You don't have to hide from one another. You know how many people call someone their husband or wife and all they do is hide from them? Lie to them? Who wants a wife like that? Who wants a husband like that? Not me. It's worthless. It's worse than worthless. You're better off being alone. Do you understand what I'm saying? Don't be guilty. The key to this is walking in righteousness. You understand? Mm-hmm. Doing what Yahweh says. That's what's important. Then your heart, that's called your vertical relationship. Your relationship with Yahweh. When your vertical relationship with Yahweh is right, all your horizontal relationships to you, to other people is right too. You have no guilt, you have no shame, you don't have to hide, you don't have to lie. That's the basis of all relationships. You understand me? That goes with your mother and father too. If you guys walk in righteousness, do you have to hide from your mother and father? No. Okay. Now, after they covered themselves with fig leaves, they heard this, verse 8, they heard the sound of Yahweh Elohim walking in the garden in the cool of the day, which was what Yahweh normally did. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh Elohim among the trees of the garden. Then Yahweh called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" Now listen, when Yahweh says, "Where are you?" does he not know where you are? Does Yahweh know exactly where Adam is? So why does he ask the question? He wanted them to come out and show themselves, because that's the beginning of true repentance. What's the beginning of true repentance? Shining the light on what? Why do we shine the light? Why do you put the light on?
To see.
To see what? To destroy the darkness with light, right? Isn't that what you do? Mm-hmm. The reason you turn the light on is so you can see in the darkness. So the first thing to becoming righteous is doing what? Shining the light on what? On your guilt and on your darkness. You got to confess. You got to say, I did wrong. I will not do it again. I'm sorry. That's shining the light on your darkness. You understand? Mm-hmm. So when we do something wrong, what do right away? Shine the light on the darkness and say you're sorry. Be sorrowful for what things you do wrong. Okay, so he says, "Where are you?" Because he wants Adam to say, "I'm here and I'm sorry," right? So he said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself." Now what does Yahweh know? That they did something wrong. They sinned, right? Mm-hmm. Just by that response, Yahweh knows you did something wrong. So Yahweh said, "Who told you that you were naked?" Did anybody have to tell Adam he was naked? Why? Why didn't anybody have to tell him? Because his eyes were open to his guilt. He knew he was guilty. Nobody had to tell him nothing. So Yahweh, what is he saying? He's saying if you were innocent, someone would have to tell you that you are naked, because you wouldn't even know it. If you didn't do anything wrong, you wouldn't know that you were guilty and naked. You understand? Mm-hmm. And he said, "Who told you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" Man, Yahweh is so good in this passage. The man said, guess what the man says? Can you guess? Did he
No.
say, yes, I did, and I'm sorry, please forgive me? Is that what he said?
No, he said I didn't.
Not quite. What else would he might say? He says, the woman that you gave me, she gave me from the tree and I ate. What's he pointing at?
His wife.
He chucked her right under the bus. He's supposed to protect her, and instead he chucked her right under the bus. Then Yahweh says to the woman, what is this you have done, woman? And the woman said, the serpent.
Oh, man.
It was his fault. He deceived me and I ate. And Yahweh looked at the serpent and he said, because you have done this, cursed are you more than all. Now, was it true? Is it true that Satan was the basis of this fall? This is true. Man had dominion. It was given to him.
And man gave it to Satan.
Yeah, and the scripture says the gifts and the callings of Elohim are irrevocable. Once he gives you something, he never takes it back. It's yours.
You give it away.
You give it away. So, Yahweh says to Satan in verse 14, because you have done this, cursed are you more than all cattle, more than every beast of the field. On your belly you will go, and dust you will eat all the days of your life.
So, snakes used to have legs?
See, it sounds that way to me. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise him on the heel. All right, so this is the first passage that is speaking prophetically about the coming Messiah. So, something to understand is women don't have seed. But it says here that between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. To the woman, Yahweh said, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. So what didn't a woman have? Wouldn't a woman have before she sinned? Pain in childbirth. In pain you will bring forth children. See, I believe that too has something to do with blood, right? Pain and suffering comes from being mortal. Part of her curse was pain in childbirth. In pain you'll bring forth children. Yet your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. I believe this is saying the woman's desire will be for her husband's position, but the man will rule over her. Then to Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, instead of whose voice? Yahweh. A man follows his wife in the sense that she creates the culture in the home. A man is out there doing his thing, trying to get provision. When he comes home, the wife creates the culture in the home. All right, then to Adam, this is the big one. Because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten from the tree about which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall grow for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread, till you return to the ground, because from it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. It's kind of like a twofold curse here. Yahweh's pointing out, because you are from the dust is going to curse you. It's like you curse yourself as a man. It's crazy, but as a man, you curse yourself because you are from the ground, and the ground is going to cause you to sweat. You're going to make your life harder than it needs to be. So, the man called his wife's name Hava, means life, because she was the mother of all the living. Yahweh Elohim made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. But for him to make skins, cover them with skin from an animal, what did he have to do?
Kill him.
The animal had to die so that the man could be covered. His shame could be covered. And so what gets spilled on the ground when you kill an animal?
Blood.
The animal's blood. And it represents the giving of life. This is what this represents. Because a man can't spill his own blood on the ground because he'll just die, Yahweh allows an innocent animal to spill its blood on the ground as a representation that the man gives his life to Yahweh. You understand that? That is so important because later these guys were just killing animals thinking that they could please Yahweh for killing animals, but they didn't have any sorrow and they didn't give Yahweh their life. So the key here is they tried to take their life and be their own Elohim by doing what they wanted to do, right? But Yahweh immediately asked for your life back. And the animal represents you giving your life. Does that make sense? Yahweh made skins and clothed them. Verse 22. Then Yahweh Elohim said, Behold, he's speaking to the angels here. Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now, I don't understand this passage very well, but knows good and evil, and now man might stretch out his hand and take from the tree of life and eat and live forever in this sinful state. Therefore, Yahweh Elohim sent him out from the Garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So what's the difference here? What happened before and after? Yahweh made the whole world. And then what did he do for man? He made what? Huh? No, he made a garden for the man. A special place. It was a set apart place on the earth for man to dwell. It was a place where he didn't have to really work hard and toil to stay alive. But now that he ate from the tree of life, what happens? Does he stay in the garden? Mm-hmm. Elohim sent him out of the Garden of Eden to cultivate the ground from which he was taken. So he was taken from the ground outside of Eden. And now he has to work the ground from which he was taken. That's very important. You know, man was taken from the ground, and man is called to work with the ground. Mm-hmm. It's like you're working with yourself. It's like you have to work on yourself as a man. You can't be lazy. You can't be a bum. How does Papa work on himself?
Read the word.
Read the word. What else? I pray. I ask for help. Right? Mm-hmm. I'm always trying to be a better husband, a better father, a better business owner, a better boss, better friend, a better congregant in the community that Yahweh has put me in, right? You think that comes easy? No, you got to work at it. You got to work the ground from which you came. You're made from the dust, and the dust needs to be cultivated. You need to dig up the crap in your heart that is against Yahweh. The things that you think wrong, you got to get them out of your head. The words that you speak that are not pure and holy, when you speak negative to people, you got to get that crap out of your heart and out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. You have to work on yourself. You understand? You got to work on the ground from which you came. You understand? Mm-hmm. It's important. That's a job. That's our job on this earth.
Yeah. It's your whole duty.
Yeah, so he drove the man out, and at the east of the Garden of Eden, he stationed a cherubim, which is an angel, and the flaming sword which turns every direction to guard the way to the tree of life.